Hey everyone, we're back at the FBN Farmer to Farmer conference doing a little Between Two Farms podcast with me here, Nathan Felighty, my co-host Quentin Keneally, and we have a friend. Introduce yourself, sir.
Do you feel like going to NDSU has been an impediment to the things you want to get done in your life?
I've spent too much time watching football to, I don't know. Don't give me questions like that. That's a
Q. Do you call yourself Q because you can't spell?
It is misspelled so many times that we just went with the Q, shortened it up to saves a lot of confusion.
Make it simpler.
A lot of people can't even say my last name, so we're like,
this is Eric with Landoption, by the way.
Right. And he's going between two ferns. So he came with the name Between Two Farms.
We're getting
that awkward phase out of the way.
I hope you guys add the music in the background. And
there's like little buttons I can press on here that I'll just press one now. You won't be able to hear it. We'll just see. I don't know what it is. I'll press random buttons here.
It's getting super awkward off the start.
Yeah. So we started off that
Isn't
way.
that the goal?
Yeah. I mean, that's usually part of my goal.
Do you remember the one where Hillary Clinton was on and I can't remember what he asked her.
So many awkward ones. I love watching them. They're good.
I suppose we should maybe get some ferns on the side.
I think that's a
next
miss.
time we're in person. Yeah.
We got some corn here.
Corns.
Corn and canola.
Corns. There we go.
Corn and canola.
Call them corns.
Yeah, a canola plant and a corn plant, even though I'm not actually growing canola next year.
But Q's got sweet corn, so.
Yep. We are big sweet corn. Couple acres makes a big sweet corn operation in Burke County, Nebraska.
Well, anyways,
thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
that was fun.
We're interested to see what you got going with Landoption. I guess we're going to talk about Landoption.
All right.
But
yeah. I mean,
give us your spiel.
Yeah.
Well, Landoption. So I'll start at the beginning. I'm from South Dakota.
Boo.
Thus the
Worst
North
Dakota.
The superior Dakota, better Dakota.
I love chasing ditch chickens.
We were a state first, by the way.
I grew up calling you the lesser Dakota. Like the lesser
we're
Canadian.
Above you, literally.
It's inferiority complex, don't you think?
Yep. Sounds like is that elevation or
the best we can do though is Q's from Nebraska. And I played in a golf tournament one time where it was South Dakota guys against Nebraska guys.
Oh.
And we were playing we had to call South Dakota North Nebraska if we lost. And Nebraska had to be called South Dakota if they lost, and we won. And so in a group of my friends, Nebraska is referred to as SSD, South Dakota.
Well,
sounds like a bad disorder or something.
Yeah. You have SSD now.
Get FBN to fight SSD.
Yeah.
So we're here day 2 FBN with Eric at Landoption.
Yeah,
man.
All right. So Landoption, I have been in the conservation space and been an entrepreneur for my whole life. And for the last 15 years or so, I've been trying to build programs that farmers could benefit from, landowners could benefit from. In 2013, I had just sold my first company and started a company called Powder Hook. And we were trying to become the Airbnb of the outdoors.
Okay. Yeah.
Airbnb, you guys
Yep.
on Airbnb?
Very familiar.
So my thought was, hey, if farmers and landowners and people who own vacation homes, if they'll let you stay in a room in their house, or if they'll invite you to their lake house to take it over for your bachelor party, surely they would let somebody come hunt or fish on their land. And you guys probably know where that's going, but we spent all the money I'd ever made in my life. We raised some money and we drove all over the country and spent all of that too. Yeah.
That's how it goes.
We figured out the hard way that farmers and landowners weren't going to let people onto their land. And that problem of how expensive it is to bring new things to the farm really stuck with me. We pivoted away from doing what we were doing in the Airbnb business model, and Powder Hook became a success story for us. And we were able to kind of pull it out of the ditch and get it sold a few years later to a company. We had gotten into the hunt fish licensing space. So for your listeners in Minnesota, you're going to get a new hunt fish licensing system here in the next few months, and that will be our old tech. That'll be what. So I think we were in 7 or 8 states by the time we got done doing what we were doing. Anyway, So after that, I had a mentor and friend in the conservation space. He was actually a board member of ours at Powderhook, and he had said over and over to me, if you care so much about conservation, if you care so much about wild people and wild places, you should know about this carbon credit thing.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So when I first heard about it, I was like, this is obviously a scam. Like, there is no way this is real life.
I mean, there's questionable moments of that still, but
Magical carbon credits out there. You can just see them floating over the city of Omaha right here.
Yeah, there are. There's millions.
Magical. Yep.
Yeah.
We just have to pull them into trees or into our soil.
Yeah.
And then somebody will pay us for it. And I thought that was crazy, right? But I learned about it. I figured out how it worked. I learned the players on the buyer side. So learned how, people value carbon, and learned how carbon is sequestered. And it was almost like going back to 4th grade photosynthesis or something like that. But you're like, yeah, I'll be dang. There is carbon in plants. There is carbon in soil. And I guess if somebody wants to pay us to pull more of that, store more of that, cool.
There's carbon in us.
Indeed. Yeah. Maybe a little more carbon in you this morning.
Probably after.
Sounds like a fun game. Yeah.
Any conference, the first night's like, you get it out of the way, and it's like, oh, you got to drive.
For sure, there's carbonation.
Yeah, there's a little carbonation.
Work
they
hard,
feed
play
it
hard,
to you here, anyways. I mean, what do you do?
What do you do? Yeah. Who are we to turn down a gift from our hosts?
Yes.
So I learned about carbon, and did so because this gentleman was the CEO of the Arbor Day Foundation.
Okay.
Arbor Day Foundation is a big Nebraska institution, a great organization. And this gentleman asked me if I would help the Arbor Day Foundation figure out how to take their carbon business and grow it. And so for a couple of years, I worked on the sustainability side of conservation, learning what buyers are looking for, learning how carbon projects work. We invested in forestry carbon projects throughout the world, and we bought and sold carbon credits to, the companies that you would know, Accenture and Microsoft. And
got to make themselves feel good.
Yeah.
They're helping.
Yeah. And it, they have these net neutral or climate goals that, carbon credits are part of how you tell that story and how you meet those goals. And I knew nothing about it, but spent 3 years or so learning and really being in the middle of some really cool transactions and some things that put habitat on the ground and trees in the ground in ways that I thought were really cool. And I still think, and this is a bit of an aside about what Landoption does, but I still think that the carbon credit system is talked about in the wrong way, because your visceral reaction to it right away is, that sounds like a scam.
There's ways that it looks like a scam, or it has been, I suppose, to a point, but there are ways that I think I know where you're going, but go on.
So people have paid for conservation and for sustainability work for generations. Like my grandparents paid for conservation work, right?
Yeah.
I had a trapper keeper when I was like 4th grade that said "Save the Rainforest" on it, and then some proceeds go to save the rainforest. And we gave, as a culture, as a country, we've given billions and billions of dollars to conservation outcomes that we really don't have a good handle on. And if you go away from the ideological reasons why carbon projects exist, and you just focus on what the mechanism of carbon crediting is and does, it's really fascinating, because it's a private market-based system. The outcomes are what are paid for, not the actions. So if you pay to plant a tree, you may have no idea if that tree is there in 6 months because a deer ate it, or in 60 years and it had a great life. And so what carbon crediting mechanisms do is they account for the action having happened and done something, which is the most market-based version of conservation I can think of, because you don't pay for a carbon credit that isn't real and happened.
Okay.
And the second part of it that I think is fascinating is they're priced, right? So there's a unit, the carbon credit or the carbon ton is a unit of exchange. And that has a value. And so because we pay for outcomes and price them, I think it's the most scalable, best idea ever in the history of conservation. And I think where sustainability and conservation people went wrong is they attached it to all these global ideologies that don't make any sense on the ground.
Yeah.
And so we have to somehow at once care about DEI and ESG and global climate change to believe that building topsoil or growing our soil is a good thing. And I just don't think that those two should sit at odds with each other.
Well, they should just be like, they just should be. They shouldn't need some grandiose marketing play to make people care about it. And then tracking it, just not overly hard in certain realms, I guess.
Right.
Like you plant the tree, it's like, oh, I can tell if the tree is there still.
Right.
But people just I felt, they do it and say, we're now good because we did this. And then no one gave a shit about the tree later or the whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good example. Trees are a visible example of a carbon project because, soil is a harder thing. You can't necessarily see soil or carbon in your soil as easily, but you can see trees. And going back to my example, we've done Save the Rainforest and Invest in the Rainforest activities you probably did them in elementary school. I don't know if North Dakota even goes to elementary school.
Can they read books up there?
I gave a hoot and I did. I gave a hoot and I did not pollute. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but we've invested in those outcomes. I'm a huge fan of Ducks Unlimited and Pheasants Forever, and we go to those banquets, right? And
don't talk to a North Dakota farmer in the pothole area about Ducks Unlimited.
All right, fair enough.
They're a little touchy. I'm a big Pheasants Forever fan, but Pheasants Forever usually stays local, where Ducks Unlimited, you don't know where that money's going, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a little bit of my point is I genuinely think Ducks Unlimited does something that needs to be done. It isn't necessarily done in Nebraska.
Right.
Because this is neither where ducks live throughout the year nor where they breed. So
this is migration flyway right on this Missouri River.
Yeah,
between I-29 and Missouri River.
I think we'll probably see
we got a duck pond on
geese fly over at some point.
Oh yeah, they should be moving here soon. They're getting hungry. What was it, 10:30?
Yeah.
Ralph Kohler's shooting
106.
Time. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. 106 flight time, Ralph Kohler.
Yeah.
So, local hunting legend.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. To Cayman, Nebraska legend.
Yes.
That's a whole story we should talk about because that
would make a whole podcast. Yeah, that's a good old dude right there.
Yeah. But so we've invested in these tree planting or Save the Rainforest projects, or we've donated to habitat organizations, and it can be difficult to know whether something got done with that.
Yeah.
And to your point, people grow frustrated over time and become a bit disenfranchised with conservation because you're not sure if it's actually helped.
Well, that and people are insanely impatient too.
Yeah.
They want the results right away. They're why? Where's the carbon going? It's like, I don't know. It takes 10 years, guy. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. So what carbon crediting or carbon mechanisms do is they form a new form of accounting to say, okay, well, we know for sure XYZ habitat got built. Now, whether it performs or not is actually the thing that matters.
Yeah.
And that's a different way of looking at the world than conservation has ever had before. And I think it scales and it's smart. It's just been co-opted to be a whole bunch of things that it's not. It's just the finest and most effective way to implement conservation practices humans have ever come up with. And I think that's enough. I don't think it has to be the answer to global climate change or to, some company's story for why they're good or bad.
Well, it's a piece of the pie. It's like, you're not gonna change the world overnight, but you're sold on it, or people are sold on that, or we got to feed the world. It's like, we are. It's like, I don't need to be sold on it. It's
right.
Overproducing. We got plenty
of the point of agriculture is just kind of you strive on. But anyways,
So I was at Arbor Day. We built this cool company, and we ended up running out of forestry carbon projects in the U.S. to invest in. And so we had the clever idea that we were going to partner with the Nature Conservancy and American Forest Foundation to build our own forest and forestry carbon project in the United States. So we picked South Georgia as the place to do that. And I found myself back in the truck, back in rural America, talking with farmers, and back on that same problem I had at Powder Hook, where it was, are you Joe Biden's henchman? And I don't trust this carbon credit stuff. And you ain't from around here. And I don't know you. And you don't understand my operation. And they're right. I didn't. And I don't. And I'm not. And for that reason, because of those impediments to that process, the act of putting a carbon project together or any other conservation or sustainability project is very expensive, because it takes a long time to translate to producers what it is you're trying to get done and learn from producers what problems you're actually solving enough to fit a program to an operation. That cost kills a lot of really good ideas.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the idea for Landoption came while I was on a trip in Georgia. I had been down there. Dad had just retired from DeKalb and Asgrow, took bare early retirement, and I was down there meeting with landowners, and it wasn't going all that well. And I called my dad, and he had just taken a Pivot Bio dealership. And I was telling him, 10 guys today basically said, we ain't from around here, and not so many words. And and he was like, oh man, that stinks. I've already signed up 6,000 acres on Pivot Bio. I was like, what? You just
they aren't
started
paying for this episode.
Just on
by the way.
network. Yeah.
Maybe after the fact. we'll
Yeah.
see what we do.
Can we just send him the bill?
Maybe
Yeah.
they'd pay it. About a month later, I was back down there meeting with some of the same people, some new people, and we're kicking the can down the road, but we're not getting decisions made. It's not coming together very quickly. It's not designed to come together quickly. These are big questions, big changes, but it's expensive to fly people to Georgia and spend a week and
Process. Yeah.
Especially during the summer when it's like terrible to
and
live.
Balmy
there.
110.
then you're below the gnat line. You guys familiar with the Georgia
I
gnat
have
line?
heard that. Yeah.
Oof,
Heard that one.
that's tough. So, do you know the Georgia gnat line?
I'm assuming there's gnats at a certain line, and then if you're
Yeah, if you're south of the line, you're in the gnats.
Yeah.
And the Georgians have perfected through evolution, through creation, I'm not sure, but they can shoot air like that, and they shoot gnats out of their eyes, away from their eyes too, while they're talking to you.
that makes a lot of sense after meeting certain people from Georgia. Yeah.
All makes sense
It's
now.
like, what
There
are
you go.
you have a tick or so? What's going on here?
Yeah, no, they're shooting
like-
gnats away from their eyes. It is, yeah. So I'm down there the second time. We're having a nice time, but imagine you're from North Dakota and you come down to Nebraska and you're trying to, bring some new whiz bang thing to
Yeah.
Nebraska farmers, and they're like, "Look, you're not from here. You don't know
I've-
me."
I've done that. It's not easy all the time.
Rough.
So I called my dad, and he's like, "Yeah, that's too bad. I'm at 30,000 acres of Pivot Bio already." I'm just like, "Dad, all we need to make conservation, sustainability, farm programs easier for farmers is I need you, but down here." Because essentially what he had done is he had taken 30 years of trust that he built in the region in Southwest Minnesota where he lives and where I graduated from high school. And he went back to those same people who know and trust him and said, "Hey, I've got something new for you to try. Here's the information and research." And that first 6 meetings didn't have to happen because they go to church together, or they've had beers together 10 times,
Right.
or they've hunted together, or whatever it may be. And so the idea for Landoption is there are thousands and thousands of programs available to farmers on any one parcel of land, including yours and yours. There's probably somewhere between 50 and 80 programs that your land and your operation would be eligible for.
Yeah.
It's just a pain in the butt to figure out which ones work, which ones don't. And so we're trying to take people like my dad and provide them the tools to help you navigate what we call the program game. So how do I find the right programs for my operation? How do I stack them and play them off of each other so that the juice is worth the squeeze to mess with it?
Exactly. Worth the time. Yep.
Well, and I think too, a lot of the local groups, because there's various ones that are trying to say, "Hey, we got this program, they're never really taught properly, because there's a lot of how they actually can come together. They have their partial story, like, yeah, we have these NRCS. We were talking yesterday. It's like, yeah, they have these things, but then there's this other group that has these things, and this group that has these things, and no one really knows the full picture.
Right.
Yep.
And knowing the full picture is a quite a technical challenge, and we focus on it every day. And so it's not, I guess, if you're a farmer listening to this, it's not unnatural that you wouldn't know all of this stuff. There's a lot to know. They change all the time. The people come and go. Just think about what those farmers probably think about my project in Georgia that I was working with on Arbor Day is I met them several times and now I'm nowhere to be found. Right now I'm in Omaha, Nebraska today. I'm not down there, and that's happening for almost all of these programs continuously. And so as a producer or a landowner, dealing with it starts to feel like more fuss than it's worth.
That's why even like knowing where to start from a farming aspect, and then you guys bring it all together. That's what it seems overwhelming before you even start. So that's probably what keeps most farmers from even starting.
And I'd compare it to almost like, okay, you get the seed booklet from, whatever, and there's like 50 things in there and they all can grow.
Right.
They all can go there. Right. You're like, I don't know what to do. So you ask the person that's from the area, like the
expert.
Or the expert or the system, the tool that says, oh yeah, well, this works better here in these soil types in this condition.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's a great analogy for our business.
I can use it.
Thanks. I think if you told my grandpa, who farmed up by Hecla, South Dakota, both grandpas did, Hecla and Houghton, South Dakota, on the Sand Lake National Wildlife Refuge. I think if you told them that someday they were going to pay an agronomist, they probably would have laughed at you.
Oh,
yeah. Yes.
And now
my dad would have done the same thing.
Producers pay an agronomist or get agronomy insights from somebody they pay in a different way. Right. We're really not doing anything different other than saying you should have both an agronomist and a programmist, somebody who can speak to your fertility and your specific, concerns with your operation and the soil type, that knows your operation, that walks the land, that helps you make good decisions. But you should also have somebody who knows how to fit programs into that operation.
Yes.
And that's what Landoption is trying to become, is a network of men and women who help producers play that program game as a part of how they look at their operational picture.
It is a big game because carbon program started in 2009 or so, or 2000?
A little before that.
Even more than that.
Well,
okay.
you would think of 2009 because it was about then that the first instantiation of the carbon market crashed.
Yep. Okay.
And went to near zero. But yeah, they've been around. The concept of a carbon credit has been around longer than that. Mm-hmm. But I would say your timeline is about right, because since after that crash, they've steadily grown in popularity. Companies have created demand for their climate or carbon goals. And then consumers are starting to preference things that are grown in climate smart ways. And so
carbon neutral packaging. And I mean, you're working with some big players here too, like Bayer. I mean, you got Microsoft, Google. I mean, you got a lot of big players in this game.
Yeah.
Well, they have to offset all their, bad things they do.
Yeah. And they have in these big public companies, there's always been, by law, something they have to do called corporate social responsibility.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So that does not mean that Cargill has to buy carbon credits. That means that, or Cargill's a bad example, it's private, but that does not mean that Microsoft has to buy carbon credits. Mm-hmm. But what it does mean is that they have CSR requirements as a public company to spend money for the public good.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that money, to the extent it was ever spent in farming communities, was pretty small. Right.
Yep.
So a different way to think about a carbon credit or a carbon project is whether you agree that Microsoft should be doing this or not, or that if you care at all that Amazon's trying to be carbon neutral by 2050, that can mean nothing to you. But what can mean something to you is those people, for the first time in all of your lives, are pushing money back down into your operation through these carbon programs. And I think that's a reason to pay attention to them. It's not because of climate change. It's not because they're going to, save your operation. It's because they pay well. They make sense ecologically speaking for your soil most of the time. And when they don't, you shouldn't do them. But hey, you're importing capital from outside your operation, from these big companies that for their own reasons want to do these things, and they'll pay you to do them. And I think it makes sense to consider that.
Exactly. Because cost of productions are so big right now that we need extra income. We need extra programs to play. So I think if you're lining those programs up for the farmer, I see this going somewhere.
I've wondered too, clearly commodity prices are, they are what they are, and costs of all these things are what they are. And you look over in Europe and they have a lot of other subsidies and programs, but they still, people are like, you still got to farm. And sometimes we tie the income to a farm so much on the commodity, the thing that it grows, and we don't look at all the other things of what keeps the core infrastructure of just agriculture going and sound. And it's more than just grain. And if other companies are saying, we just want you to be around, here's some money, like that's a different way to, you're farming. It's just, you're a different, it's just a different story. And that's hard for a lot of people though, too.
And well, in farm parlance, you know, there's a company here at the show that we're at that is showing farmers different markets they can sell their grain into. And as I was driving home last night, I was thinking it may be something we call a different market to take your corn to this elevator versus that elevator, or that mill versus that mill. But it's really, you're selling corn into the supply chain. You have on your land dozens of other markets you can address. Still grow corn, but growing corn in a different way would avail to you additional markets you can sell into. And it may not be the bushel of corn you're selling. You might sell a different claim. And that's the kind of thing we want to help educate farmers on, and their trusted advisors on, is, you know, the only thing you're growing is not corn. When you grow soil, somebody will pay you to grow soil. When you take nitrogen out of the water, somebody else will pay you to take nitrogen out of the water. When you grow a cover crop, somebody else will pay you to grow a cover crop for reasons that you don't have to care about, but they'll pay you for.
You can save water. People pay you to save water too.
That's right. And so when I say there's 1,100 different farm programs throughout the U.S., and when I say there's 50 to 70 in every operation, those are from things like the NRD, who cares about water, quantity and quality. So there are things from the Fish and Wildlife Agency, who care about biodiversity and habitat and wildlife. Those are things like from, you know, private companies that care about, you know, watershed, or they care about having, you know, offset low carbon corn or whatever. And so in total, there are hundreds of people who are building markets for your farm operation. It's just that you can't just look at the bushel as the only thing you want to sell from your farm.
Well, and I've thought myself with the land I'm farming, it's family stuff. We hope to, you know, inherit it and all that fun stuff. Well, it's like, I've thought the best way to do part of that, and for the programs, it's like, I need to decide pretty soon if I'm going to, you know, do some conservation thing. Like, I want to put up some trees. Well, it's like the prairie. No one wants to put up trees because it takes away acres. It takes away this. It's like, yeah, but that should help everything else long term. And it might piss some people off right away because it's going to create snowdrifts and people are going to get mad. But I don't know. More, I think, have to think that way. It's like, you don't have to worry about every single acre. You have to use the acres you have properly.
Fun like that. That's what we're incorporating solar farm this coming year. So I mean, there's gonna be all kinds of games to do underneath that. Agrivoltaics. They're gonna be planting trees by the road, so people don't have to look at them through their houses and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that all comes to fruition. That's all to feed the Omaha power grid right here.
I think all of these ideas, when they meet your objectives as a producer, are good ideas. I'm not big on solar. I don't know if trees are good for you. We call our business Landoption because it's not really up to me. It's up to you. We say you're a land opinion, we're a Landoption. What we want to do is make sure that you understand what's available to you. And if you have an erosion concern, you might like to have trees. Or if you have an area of your farm that never yields and you like to hunt, you might like to have buffer strips.
Put some grass in there.
And so I'm not saying do one or the other, but I am saying a lot of these pay pretty well. If you play them right and stack them, you're going to make money doing it. And if it can address some other concern or provide you access to a new market, it'll help your farm. It'll help your operation. You'll make money doing it. You'll manage risk doing it. And I think those are worthwhile things to consider.
Well, and if farms, I mean, more and more are thinking, oh, we got a value add, you know, something we're doing. And if it reaches the consumer, the story, either the story does, if someone's buying it, then they need to tie something to it. It's like, well, won't it be easier if you can tie more to that story to sell it? Because if they're trying to buy soybeans, they're going to buy the soybeans that have all this other data and fun stuff tied to it first versus just the nothing bin.
Yep.
And you can do both. You have the option. You have the land option.
I think, thanks.
The option.
Nice try,
Yes.
Jeff.
Well done.
I appreciate that. Say that every podcast, will you?
Yeah.
You have the land option. I heard a speaker a couple of weeks ago. I told Q about this yesterday. He said, if you as a producer think that you can squeeze enough efficiency out of your farm playing the row crop game in the traditional sense better and more efficiently every year, it's a race to the bottom for family farms.
Well, yeah, and you start you're taking the max amount out, and there's a limit where you take more than it can give back.
And you have no tools with which to beat the market. And you said it really well. There are attributes. There are things about your crop that can be done differently that avail you to a differentiated price. And those are the people that are taking advantage of those are the farmers that are going to outcompete their neighbors in the years to come, because as you said, commodity prices today are where they are. There's not much anybody can do about that.
We can't do much about that.
The ratio
keep overproducing,
keeps getting worse. It's not gonna get better.
I mean, probably. I heard urea was up 100 pounds in the last couple or $100 in the last couple of weeks. Like,
awesome. I bought early before that.
Yeah. I don't know how as a producer you can you have no control over that. Like, that's got to be really frustrating.
We're price takers. Yep.
But there are things in this program universe that you do have some say over. And I think, for years, it's not been worth the squeeze to pay attention to. We think that if you have somebody to help you with it, that it'll be worth it.
Yep. Because, you have like I've seen your webpage. It lines it up nice line by line, and you can pick and choose which ones work best for your farm, whether you're doing that application right now or if you want to adapt that to it. So it's pretty clean and looks pretty good on the website.
Here's the tough question, though. This is the tough because it's random and everywhere is different. What can this pay? Like, when someone goes on there, or maybe the better question is, how much more is a typical user on the system getting from these programs versus them just doing the local thing, trying to figure it out themselves? Like, what's that difference you're seeing?
I thought for sure you were going to ask me how being born in South Dakota is holding me back. But
well, you can answer that too. I am thinking.
I'll finish that question.
It's cool you said what you did, but I know what you were thinking.
Well, I'm trying to be nice.
So you're right. It's different everywhere. So far in the acres that we've planned through our system, we're averaging about $78 top line. So that's new revenue to the farm. That does not mean there are not costs to do some of those things. We're pretty new. This business is like, our product has been live for not even one full growing season, not even a growing season, really. We got live in September of last year. So I don't know what the net of that $78 would be. Our software estimates that. I would guess it's going to be about $35 or $40 an acre. We charge $2.
Right.
So I think for most producers, it's going to be worth it. We take a 10% fee out of what we find for a producer, but then we take the headache away too. So help you navigate all of that stuff, get your forms done, that kind of thing.
You have to pay ahead of time.
The 2 is ahead of time. Yep. And candidly, we charged ahead of time because when we first started, we were like, well, we don't want to charge the farmer. We still don't want to charge the farmer.
Right.
But we could never get anybody to give us what we needed in order to do the process until we started charging. And lo and behold, as soon as we charged, it was like, oh, well,
lock them in a little bit
stuff. And so
people need to buy into the process so they don't feel incentivized.
$2 is too bad. It's hard to find anything under $5. $5 an acre. So it's not a bad price point.
It's our way of saying, basically, you have to pay to play so that you'll answer our phone call and give us the stuff we need. But it's not so much that it's like, I don't know. In some ways, it's like, it's worth $2 an acre just to know what you're missing out on.
True. Yeah. Got to have a little skin in the game.
Yeah.
Play.
Yep. You should call it it helps you sleep at night that you're getting all of the programs.
Yeah. At least you know what you're missing out on, or you know it's there. Yeah. So that $2 phase, that can be all you do with Landoption. And what that'll do is it'll give you program recommendations by field. We call it a game plan. So your rug here is amazing, but like that field that's full of green acres and a few wet spots would have a completely different mix of programs than these acres below my feet, which for the listener is full of red acres. And I don't even know what's going on with it.
It's the red channel infrared.
So that's just not
imagery.
All dead.
No, that's the red is actually
like
more vegetation that's growing. If it wasn't red, if it was blue, it means something's
We're on
dying.
a boundary map too, just so people don't think we're staring at the carpet.
But this is
that's an NDVI,
and then this is
that's just infrared raw imagery. And
but to be fair,
NAPE imagery.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the point is, some of those fields will have different programs that make sense to them than others. So it's not like, oh, here's 5 programs for your whole operation. It's this field needs this stack of 3, and that field needs this stack of 4.
Can they pick before they pay you, like so they can at least see like the
we'll show
layout?
you. We'll show you a whole list, but that's a list of like 70.
Yeah, but you can at least kind of pick at them and get an understanding.
Is there any instance where you couldn't line up a program for a producer? Or is there always something hanging there waiting to be used?
Good question.
It's like every area is different.
Yeah. So there have been instances where we found and chose programs that we thought would make sense for a producer that they chose not to do. So that doesn't mean, I don't know if that answers your question, but there have been people who spent $2 an acre who did not enroll in anything that we found. That doesn't mean that we didn't find it, and that doesn't mean they weren't a fit, but it just meant, or
so you're pretty much saying there's always something out there.
There's almost always something out there. Yes. So far, always something out there. I hesitate to say always, but that doesn't mean that, if the only thing that's available to you is a cover crop reimbursement through your local NRD, and you hate the NRD guy, and you would rather swim with sharks than deal with that guy. Well, then, there's not much we can do about that.
Okay. So back to the farmer.
Is there some programs that are kind of, fairly popular, universal around that are like, seem like no-brainers that it's like, just like the NRCS is doing this, like just do it because it's gonna be a good thing.
When
EQIP or CSP, stuff like that.
Yeah. When will this come out?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
probably in a month or 2.
So if it's not too late, you should get your bridge payment form into the FSA NRCS office. That's a literal no-brainer.
Well,
yeah.
I didn't farm last year, so I can't.
All right,
I'll just walk away.
There are, depending on the state, for example, in Minnesota, there are watershed programs where each producer qualifies for $5,000 for basically filling out a form and doing a couple simple little things. Almost everywhere you can be in a carbon project of some sort. That doesn't mean it'll make sense for your operation.
Sure.
Here, I think by the end of this growing season, anybody that lives within hauling distance to a ethanol plant or a SAF, a sustainable aviation fuel facility, 45Z is probably as close to a no-brainer as you can get. It seems like we don't know what that looks like yet, and it'll be different for every ethanol producer will have their own program, and we don't know what it'll pay farmers yet, but my suspicion is it'll be pretty good. And so there's things like that come and go, I guess, that feel like a no-brainer for a while, and then they change, and hopefully there's another one right behind it.
Yeah, they're getting a little more clarity to it. You're not quite there yet.
The local NRCS guy in my area was like, if you do variable rate, Kruger doing that, right? This was EQIP or CSP, whatever. They're like, I don't know, some guys are getting like $72 an acre. And I basically was excited. He's like, well, you gotta be in it for 1 year, or you gotta wait. And I was like, well, some more money I guess I gotta wait for.
Yeah. That's a downside of a lot of these programs that maybe we can help fix it, someday in the future, is almost all of this stuff pays at the end of the process.
Yeah.
And a lot of times there's cost up front, and that's not always great, right?
Well, I got the next big idea, because this would be awesome if this was possible. When I think of, getting an operating loan, or you're getting equipment, you're getting, you might might have to get a loan for it.
Right.
Well, all these programs, sometimes they take a year to get into, or they take all this stuff. It's like, shouldn't I be able to use those programs almost as collateral leverage for the future?
Yeah. Yeah.
In some form, because like if I get this thing and do this thing, like I'll make $20 investment gets me $100. Like,
so
have you played around with that?
It's in our business plan. We're not there yet. FBN piloted something like that. Actually, we're at the FBN show right now. They piloted something like that where it wasn't that you could borrow against the future revenue from those programs, but if you could verify that you were in them, you could buy down your rate.
Okay.
That's a cool program.
A little safer, yeah.
So it's it saved you an interest. I think the future for farm and land programs is going to include financial tools like that benefit the farmer, not just from a long-term P&L standpoint, but from a cash flow standpoint. And that's a knock against a lot of programs, is they're hard on cash flow in some cases.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in working in
upfront cost
crop insurance, that was always, it's always sitting there. There's a want to do it by people. It's just getting the rules done is, okay, if you're doing these things, de-risking your farm, well, that should de-risk your risk. And you should be able to get some sort of incentive off your premium, or get a little better rate for XYZ, fit that into the actuarials. And instead of just like, oh, it's just like consistent, this whole rule. It's like, it really should be some sort of regional field by field assessment to really understand your risk profile. But that's hard.
I hope to be part of conversations like that as our business grows, because I think, I've been a business person for all of my career, and I think many farmers treat their operations as businesses, and some don't. And I think a great way to think about how your farm is affected by programs that matters long term, that hurts short term, is what happens to the asset value of a healthier soil. Or more.
It should be assessed differently, and taxed differently. I mean,
maybe,
I mean, that can be a double-edged sword, but
yeah. So today we're trying to find, and this is the part of our business that kind of catches people off guard a little bit, but Landoption actually doesn't work directly with farmers. For spiritual reasons, for what reasons we think are smart, maybe they aren't, I don't know. But we've chosen to work through the farmer dealer, local ag professional channel. And so when I say we don't work directly with farmers, what I mean is that this is something that will be available in your region because somebody in your region has chosen to add Landoption to their business. So that might be an agronomist, that might be your accountant. But you as a farmer don't go to Landoption and sign up. You go to your Quentin Keneally, who takes you through this process and helps you with it.
Just like that local face and rep. Have that local face and rep.
I think crop insurance agents would be one of your best bets.
I do too. Yeah,
because they get the my brother's one, but they see all these programs from insurance and tying on, like, that's just, they're inherently tied to it. And if you're sharing information to it, mentally and actually legally, they're tied to not share information too. So they don't do it. Anyways, there's a ping for all my crop insurance bros out there.
I mean, I think a crop insurance guy can make a great additional income taking a nasty headache off of a producer's plate. I mean, you guys have both said it. There's a lot to know. It's frustrating. You feel like you're missing out. Your neighbor's probably in something you're not. And I think that's a headache you can get rid of. And if you're a ag professional and you're willing to help people with that, I think there's a great business to be had in your region helping people with this stuff.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's a good fit in the whole system.
We're getting to that time. All South Dakota people must leave. That's not a rule.
We're happy to go.
Yeah. But
it is today.
Before that, I guess tell people how to get a hold of you and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, we're just at landoption.com, spelled just like it sounds. I'm Eric Dinger. Eric at landoption.com is my email. Happy to help. I will say, if you're a producer and you're listening to this, think of the person you trust in your life that you think should be helping you with land option, and that'd be a great person to send our way. We'll help get them trained up and get them started, and
You guys are on
we'll be able
LinkedIn,
to
right?
Yeah, we're on LinkedIn. We don't do a lot of social media yet. We're
I know a guy for that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is he from North Dakota?
No.
Okay.
He's big on. He's a good LinkedIn. He's a good source. He's getting better. He's getting
I
good.
try. I usually get posts by making fun of things. So,
Yeah, it's memeing game.
but
You don't be
I
part
can
of
do it
his
in a
memeing
fun
game.
way.
Yeah, I
Be like,
appreciate that.
I might be okay with this South Dakotan and
Yeah.
what they're doing. So,
As South Dakotans go, this is not the worst.
yeah. We do have to stick to our Dakota part.
Yeah,
We were almost one state, but then they said, "Oh, it's going to be in Pierre, the capital," and we were like, "Hell no, it'll be in Bismarck," and you were like, "Hell no," and then we like, "Well, I guess we just got to split."
Have you ever heard the? I don't know where this came from, but I think it's so fitting. Have you ever heard of the adage "me against my brother," and then me and my brother against the neighbors, and me and my brother and the neighbors against the town, and then our town against your town, and our state against your state, and our region? Like, we're Midwest, people come from other parts of the country. We're Midwest,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's probably what we're dealing with here, because I think North Dakotans are passable.
Well, we were there is actually no known exact moment of who became the state first, because they literally made it the 38th and 39th. They don't say who it is. They just say the 38th and 39th states are North and South Dakota. So no one inherently knows, because no one wanted to piss off a bunch of Norwegians and Germans.
I don't think we should settle it based on national titles on the football side.
Well, that would be unfair to you.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Although the girls' basketball program's done pretty well.
Yeah, but not like national title well.
Yeah. But, well, thanks for stopping over and sharing all your fun wisdom.
Yeah.
And get to learn some more on land option.
And land option.
Was I the first to make this awkward at the beginning?
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Actually, I have to bring it on more. That's pretty.
Yeah.
It's a good awkward though.
I liked it. I'm an awkward duck.
Yeah.
So, but anyways.
Yeah. Great to have some time together, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening, everybody.
That'll be all. And follow us and like us, share us, tell everybody about the world of Between Two Farms. So we'll see you next time, everyone.